Hello, I'm Steph and this is JoAnne, and we help people like you create a life that you absolutely love. On today's conversation, we're talking all about how to switch the vibe if you've got negative Nancy's coming your way, how to support your friends and your people and your clients instead of going down the rabbit hole of wah, wah, wah. All right, let's get into it. So, JoAnne, I love when I can see you in a conversation. We're sitting around a table and somebody goes down the wah, wah, wah. JoAnne kind of gets this little sparkle in her eye and she sees that as an opportunity to shine the light. So let's hear maybe a little story or something, your perspective on this conversation, because I know I see it in myself. I'm still in the stage of running away from it, honestly. I get that coming at me and I sometimes run from it because I just maybe don't have the energy or I don't feel like being that person for whoever's coming at me. So tell us, JoAnne, how did you come to this point where you actually see it as an opportunity to shine light rather than a bad thing or a burden?
Well, it's kind of interesting stuff because I get this question a lot, mainly from friends, like, how can I stay positive when I'm surrounded by people who are negative? Or, you know, a friend of mine who's like, well, I'm trying to stay positive, but my husband is always kind of negative. And Steph's right, I really do, when I see someone approaching me or at dinner, at a conversation, I see them like, you know, going on about negative things, I really kind of get a little delighted. I look at it as a game. I look at it as a game because I know that kind of little negative space that they're in is not entirely who they are. That who they are is so much bigger and there's a lightness in there somewhere. So I try and engage it as a little game. And one of the things I think probably I really love to do is, even if I'm looking at someone's face, I'm looking for that brightness and lightness in their eyes. And when I can see it or I can hear their words, I'm imagining it. And I'm looking for an opportunity in the little conversation to pick out something that really excites them or fires them up, you know? So if they're going on about a bad day or something that's negative, I'm just listening without judgment and kind of looking for that opportunity. Or I might even ask a question, you know, and I really, really look at it as an opportunity to shine the light on their greatness and their lightness. And usually, you know, if you listen to people closely, you'll see something, or you might know something that really fires them up and they're really excited about. I love asking them about that, because if I can get them talking about that for just a little wee period of time, then they're there.
Yeah, and really, I know this from a coach's perspective. My job is not to solve people's problems or fix people's problems. My job is to hold the space and ask the appropriate questions. So I'm very proud of doing that in my career as a coach. I fall short of that in my personal relationships for one reason or another. So it's interesting. Really, your space as a friend or a coach is not to solve problems. It's actually just to hold the space and shine the light if you're up for it. It doesn't mean you have to. It doesn't mean that it's your job. I'm aware that I'm willing and wanting and grateful to do this for my clients. And maybe I don't want to be that person for every relationship. Maybe I burnt myself out that way. So it's not saying you have to do this. It's just saying that it's possible to hold that space and to flick the switch if you're in a conversation that feels ugh. And a good way that I always do is I say, tell me something good. Or like JoAnne was mentioning, you notice the little bit of light and you just shine it. And, you know, we're focusing on our greatness and focusing on for me, when I'm talking with my health coaches of their zones of genius, and then everything that they hate doing, we just we don't talk about it. And that's what today's about, is your space to hold the belief. It's not your job to fix the problem, but to hold the belief until they believe in themselves. Yeah. So that's another conversation, not expecting your friends or clients to make the leap to where you're at, but allowing them to figure it out on their own and pull that out. So JoAnne has this really great story about the one with the money and the the 40 grand to 4 grand. I love that story.
Yeah, it's a fun story. When I was doing some work in Afghanistan, and there was a woman who was an older woman working to develop employment projects for women, and she submitted an application form to, we had some money at the time through the Canadian Embassy to provide to them to grow these education projects. And when I got her application form, I thought she wanted 40 grand, which was well within our capability to fund. And I went to her and I said, great, Felicity, we can give you 40 grand. She said, no, my dear, I don't need 40 grand. I want 4 grand. And I was like, what? Like, we can give you 10 times that amount. You could buy more stuff. And she said, look, if you want to help people develop and grow their own businesses, she said, it's not about throwing money at them. She said, you have to believe in their capability to create their own wealth and in their own genius until they can believe it themselves. She said $40,000 would ruin them. And wow, did I ever learn a lot from that woman. She said, you just kind of sit with them until they believe in their own capacity to do things. And she said it was a relationship. And then they started to do things. And I said to her, well, how can I help? I'll get you the 4 grand. And she said, well, if we can bring some of the sample dolls out to sell. So I said, no problem. I brought her to some different countries' tents, and people started putting in orders they were charging $50 US for the dolls. And these women, that was a huge amount of money. And they did not believe that anyone would pay $50 for this beautiful doll that was handmade. And when they did, they were so grateful but so astonished. It was like, it felt like their work had value and that they did it themselves. It wasn't just given to them. Mm-hmm. So that was such a cool lesson for me, that it's not about giving people answers to their problems or fixing it. And I think people start to resent you when you try and fix their problem.
It's the fish analogy. You want to teach a man to fish instead of giving him the fish. And I'm so guilty of this. I'm pretty efficient at, computer work. And for years, for my health coaches and people I was working with, I would say, oh, I'll do that for you. I'll set up your website. I'll do this. And that helped nobody. I was drained and they weren't empowered. So now that I'm empowering health coaches and business owners to do it themselves, everybody's happy. And a little note on setting your systems up as well. I used to, when someone would come at me for nutrition advice or, I was resentful, and I know a lot of you guys are too, is you get resentful for giving away free information. Now, my revenue generating activity is to give out free information. How funny is that? And the only difference is I'm set up for it. So I have the systems in place. And a beautiful example of this, just a couple days ago, a potential client comes in, they're asking me about my services. In the past, I would have just barfed all over them because I wanted to fix their problems and help them. And then I'm exhausted. It was way too big of a leap for them. They didn't ask for that. Now I have automated systems, so I just offer them, here's all the possibilities. They get to pick and choose. It's all set up. It's no extra work for me. And they warm up, and either they're going down the path of eventually working with me, or they're realizing that it's not the right offer for them. So that's the key, is having your system set up so that your people can get to know you without draining yourself, so that when people are coming at you through Facebook Messenger, through conversations, through referrals, you're no longer, what do I do? You're grateful for it because you know exactly how to serve them in a way that you don't drain yourself.
So important to keep your own energy high, because giving everything away where you're getting drained, you're not really doing anyone any good.
And that's a whole other topic. We'll do a video on the law of reciprocity, because as an online marketer, your job is actually to give away your best stuff for free. So we'll talk about that in another episode. And again, today's episode is really just being able to recognize and hold the space if you're up for it or not. It's your choice, right?
Yeah, I love how you said about that, Steph. It's your choice. If you're in conversations that don't feel good and leaving would feel good, leave. Mm-hmm. If it's someone you love and you want to increase the between you, then shine the light higher on them and just keep looking for that space. So you always have choice. The madness is sitting there and not being comfortable and resentment.
Yeah,
that's like
been there.
Yuck, done that. Yeah, me too. Been there. Yeah, my ex-husband. But so you always have choice, and there's always more than one way to do things, right?
Yeah.
So, but we all have those moments when we're low and we're complaining about something, we're not feeling good. We all have them. So, not making too big a deal of them and just recognizing that that's not how we are all the time. It's just a moment in time. And so how are people showing up in your experience? And can you, stay feeling good and notice how they start showing up in your life, right? That's kind of a cool place to be. Yeah,
and really coming back to it's our go-to mechanism to want to fix people. That's not what people want, and that try it out. It doesn't work. So any relationship, if you're thinking of that conversation or you're in that conversation, if you try to go down the path of fixing it for them, know that that's not that's not going to help, and instead looking at it and shining the light and holding the space if you want, or changing the subject or wrapping up that conversation
or
and moving
just
on.
Leaving. Yeah.
But it's not your job to fix these people, especially as a coach. I see that over and over again. People having ineffective coaching because they are talking at their client. You can do trainings. That is, you can train. The two difference between coaching and training. Training, you give all this awesome information. Coaching, you ask the right questions. You're barely talking, right? So just to wrap this up, I'm Steph, this is JoAnne, and we help people like you create a life that you absolutely love. Come join us in our free community groups for more support, more trainings. You can find the links below. We have Mind Body Solutions, where we connect the mind and the body, get you feeling awesome, getting you out of that pain and into pleasure.
Yeah.
And then my group, Work Smarter, Not Harder. This is for you business junkies, health coaches, online entrepreneurs wanting to create leveraged income, automated systems, and make money while you sleep.
Oh, I like that idea.
Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next
Okay,
episode.
bye.